Welcome back to the channel, Book Dragons. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I'm doing a book review for Recursion by Blake Crouch. Now, this is the second Blake Crouch book that I've read. The first one was Dark Matter. And if you want to see my review for Dark Matter, I'm going to leave a link in the cards at the end of the video once this is done, so you can go check that out. But don't go anywhere. Stay here for this one first. And I really enjoyed Dark Matter. Spoilers, just in case you don't want to watch the entire review that I did for it. So I went into this one knowing that a lot of people love it. A lot of people love it better than Dark Matter. So I was really excited to get to this one. I've discovered that Blake Crouch really is an author that I want to keep reading. So I figured it was time. I needed a book that I knew would be a good palate cleanser, and Dark Matter did that for me, so I figured Recursion would do the same. And I wasn't wrong. It was a really quick read. It was an easy read, so I'll say that right up front. If you're looking for an action-packed novel that's quick and easy to read, this is definitely a book that you should check out. And there are two main characters. Well, there's technically a third character, but he really doesn't feature extremely heavily in the book. He's definitely more of a side piece. I'll say that. But the two main characters are Barry Sutton and Helena Smith. Now, Barry Sutton is a police officer. We first see him as he's been called in to talk someone out of a suicide attempt because they have started having false memories. Memories of another person, or so they think that they used to be, and so they've got all these memories of a different life, and yet it's not them, or at least they don't think it's them, and they can't cope with it, and so they're about to commit suicide. So he gets called in to prevent the suicide, and this is something that's been happening a lot recently. A lot of people are reporting false memory system. They're not sure how you get it, if it's contagious. Maybe it's something you can contract by being around someone who has false memory syndrome. And so he goes up to the roof of this building and talks to the person who's about to commit suicide. And the story just kind of all goes from there. And he starts working on investigating where this phenomena is coming from, who might be causing it or what might be causing it. And it's kind of out of his purview, right? So his superiors are pretty much telling him, get off this, dude. I don't want you working on this. Then we have Helena Smith. And Helena Smith is a scientist and researcher. She is working off of grant money to fund her research that she hopes will lead her to a way to help her mother who is suffering from dementia. And she is working on a project to create a way to supplant memories. And not in a dastardly way or anything like that. She wants to be able to help people who can no longer remember significant parts of their life by taking those memories and implanting them into those people's minds. Almost like a cure for dementia, but not really. It's not something that you can really cure per se. She's not discovered a cure for dementia, but just as a way to help that person live a more satisfying life until the disease just kind of takes its toll and they eventually die. So it's one of those things to help prolong the beauty of their lives until they get to the point of no return, basically. So that is what her research is based around. And Barry Sutton's POVs start off the book taking place in the late 80s. And Helena's POVs start off the book taking place in the late 2000s. So like 2008, 2009, that sort of thing. And at some point in the book, they do converge. And I'm not going to talk about how they converge, but they do converge and they kind of get together and put their heads together and start working things out. Helena has had an offer from a mysterious benefactor who we find out more about after she accepts the offer, and it is pretty much unlimited funding to continue her research. And with new and amazing technologies and all that good stuff, it's a researcher's dream, right? So the first half of the book is really taking place on two separate time frames. Barry's in the 80s and Helena's in the 2000s, until the point that they converge. And this story becomes about more than just injecting memories into people's minds. It becomes a story of experiencing those memories in a very deep and real way. And that's all I'm going to say, because to say anything else would give you spoilers as to what happens in the book, and it would ruin the majority of the plot for you. And this is a very plot-driven book. There are characters in the book, of course. There's character development. You do get to know our main two characters quite well, and I really like that about this story. I enjoyed getting into these characters' heads, which I think is the real selling point of the character development in this book, because Blake Crouch really takes a lot of time delving into the psychology of the two main characters, specifically their memories and the memories of the people they love. And it's just really fascinating. And the science behind it, it is science fiction, but it's very plausible. Technology could get to this point in the future. We just don't know what all the possibilities are. But Blake Crouch does a really good job of presenting a plausible direction for the technologies that he talks about in the book. But it is science fiction, so don't try this at home, kids. That kind of thing. So I've gone into some details about the basics of the story, just trying to give you a framework of what the story is about. And I'm just going to move on from there to what I liked about the book. And one thing I already mentioned was the pacing. It's a really quick read, really easy read. When he's talking about the technologies and the science behind some of these things, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel like he's talking over your head or anything like that, or over your hat in my situation. He's not talking over your hat. It's just easy prose, really easy to digest, very quick read. When I finally sat down to dig into it, I was sick one day, and I had started into the book already. I was about 15% in, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to read all day. And I did, and I got to 58% in the book that day, and then the next day I finished it. So it's pretty much a 2 or 3 day read, very quick. So I loved that about it. The pacing was just perfect for me. I really, really enjoyed the characters, especially Helena. She was a fascinating character for me. I really enjoyed Barry as well, and just some of the personal hurts and traumas that he had dealt with in his life that I won't go into just really made him an endearing character for me. But for some reason, I really clicked the most with Helena. I felt like the story made sense to me. I didn't feel like I was lost at any point in the story, so that was a big win for me. And if I talk about what I didn't like, I really can't think of anything except that the ending was just very different for me. It wasn't a cliffhanger, it didn't end without all the loose ends being resolved, but it just kind of ended, and you're kind of left to decide for yourself exactly what comes next. It's kind of open-ended. We're not going to get a sequel to it. It's not open-ended like that. It's just open-ended. And even that wasn't a big deal. It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book at all or anything like that. And also something that may bother some people. It didn't bother me, but it may bother some people. And that's the fact that you really have to suspend your disbelief in certain parts of the book. Not all, but certain parts. And when I go into a science fiction book, or a fiction book really at all, I've learned to suspend my disbelief. It's just something that kind of goes with the territory. But if that bothers you about books that you read, where you get to a certain point and you're just like, wow, that's just really completely unbelievable. Then this book might not work for you. But I just had a total blast reading the book. I can't wait to read another Blake Crouch book, and the next one I'm probably going to read is Upgrade, and then I'll go back and maybe try the Pines trilogy and things like that. But I'm really curious about what Upgrade is going to be like. I haven't read anything about it. I'm just going to go into it blind, but I really definitely want to read more Blake Crouch. So I'm going to rank the book, and I'm going to put it in my hoard. It is definitely a must read and a must keep for me. I'm so glad that I own it. I own the ebook. I'm not going to buy the physical book. I'm just going to own the ebook. But it's definitely a book I would read again, and I am wholeheartedly putting that in my hoard. So, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. Have you read Recursion? How did it work for you? If you haven't read Recursion, let me know your thoughts about whether or not you're going to read it now. And if you want to talk spoilers, I will be putting a special comment in the comments below so that you can talk spoilers to your heart's content. Please keep that out of the regular comments so that nobody else is spoiled. But I hope you'll dialogue with me below. And until next time, guys, make sure you read more books. I will talk with you very soon. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my patrons. I really appreciate you. Thank you for all your support.